If you've ever felt that dreaded twinge in your back, you know it can just stop you in your tracks, right? It almost feels like an inevitable part of life. But what if it isn't? In this explainer, we're going to unpack the mechanics of your spine, pinpoint the main culprits behind the pain, and give you the tools to build a back that's not just pain-free but actually powerful. So let's get right into it. So here's a funny thing about your spine. It's this marvel of engineering that's both incredibly tough and somehow surprisingly fragile. I mean, it's designed to be this strong, flexible pillar protecting our most vital nerves. So why is it that for so many of us, it's also a major source of pain? Well, the answer really lies in the incredible demands we put on it every single day. Just think about what your spine does for you all day long. 1 minute, it's a rigid support beam so you can stand up straight. The next, it's a powerful spring when you lift something heavy. And then it's a flexible chain that lets you bend, twist, and arch. It's this constant, high-stakes juggling act. And, sometimes a ball gets dropped. Okay, so if we're going to solve the puzzle of back pain, we need to meet the usual suspects. Let's dive into the three most common culprits that, thankfully, aren't usually life-threatening, but are responsible for the vast majority of our aches and pains. This breakdown is actually pretty surprising for a lot of people. When we think of serious back pain, our minds often jump straight to things like slipped discs. But look at the data. The lion's share of acute pain comes from something much simpler: muscle strains. Now, herniated discs and age-related changes are definitely significant, but they just aren't the main story for most of us. So first up is the number one offender: the muscle strain. This is that classic sudden, "oh, I threw out my back" moment. Imagine a rope being stretched too far, too fast, the little fibers start to fray and tear. That's pretty much what happens to the muscles that support your spine, like those long erector spinae muscles. And the triggers for this, they're usually hiding in plain sight. It could be those hours you spend slouching at your desk, a sudden weird twist to grab something, or lifting a heavy box using all back and no legs. But here's the crucial part. If your core is weak, your spine has lost its natural, built-in support system, which leaves it super vulnerable to these everyday strains. Okay, next up we've got herniated discs. This is more of a structural failure. I want you to think of a jelly donut. The tough outer wall, that's the annulus fibrosus, can get weak spots over time. Then, under pressure, the jelly-like center, the nucleus pulposus, can start to squeeze out. And this is the critical step. That escaped jelly can press directly onto a really sensitive spinal nerve, and that's when the real trouble begins. And that nerve compression often leads to a really well-known problem: sciatica. Now, it's super important to know that sciatica isn't really a diagnosis itself. It's a set of symptoms. When a herniation in your lower back, usually around the L4 to S1 vertebrae, pinches a root of the huge sciatic nerve, the result is that infamous shooting pain, numbness, or weakness that can travel all the way down your leg. Our third culprit is, well, it's just time. Over the years, all that cumulative wear and tear leads to degenerative changes. The discs that cushion our vertebrae can get thinner, and the small joints that connect them can develop osteoarthritis. It's a totally natural part of aging, but things like your lifestyle and genetics can definitely speed up the process. Think about this for a second. More than half of everyone over the age of 60 has some degree of spinal degeneration. It's almost a certainty as we get older. But here is the most crucial takeaway. Seeing degeneration on an X-ray does not automatically mean you will have pain. That is a really powerful distinction to understand. All right, now that we know the culprits, let's pivot from the problems to the power. The most exciting part of this whole story is just how much control you actually have. We can actively build a more resilient spine, and it all starts with smart, everyday solutions. For anyone who works at a desk, this right here is ground zero for back health. The difference between that slumped-over posture and a supported one is, well, it's everything. Good lumbar support, getting your monitor at eye level, having your feet flat on the floor. These aren't just about comfort. They are about preventing chronic long-term strain. And maybe the most important tip of all, your best posture is your next posture. Get up and move often. This might be one of the most important skills you can learn for your back safety: the breathe and brace. So before you lift anything, first take a big, deep breath in. Step 2, you're going to brace your entire core like you're about to take a punch to the gut. It's not about sucking in, it's about tightening everything. Step 3, you perform the lift while holding that super tight brace. Only exhale after you're standing fully upright. This technique literally creates a natural corset of pressure that protects your spine. It's a game changer. Ultimately, the best defense is a good offense. And while bad habits can definitely cause pain, the right kind of movement is the most powerful medicine for your back. This isn't just about preventing problems. It's about actively building a stronger, more capable spine. Now, when we say core, we're not just talking about six-pack abs. We are talking about the deep, 360-degree web of muscles that wraps around your entire midsection like a natural corset. Exercises like planks, back extensions, and simple mobility drills build this internal stability, which takes a ton of pressure off your spinal column. But listen, a strong back isn't built by the core alone. We have to look at the entire system, especially what's called the posterior chain. That's the powerful group of muscles on the backside of your body, so your glutes, your hamstrings. When these are weak or your hips are tight from sitting all day, your lower back picks up all the extra slack it was never designed for. That's why exercises like split squats and hip thrusts are so critical. They build support from the ground up. This quote from our source material really highlights a huge blind spot. It is so common to see people who are incredibly fit, who exercise all the time, but they still completely neglect dedicated core work. It really is the missing piece of the puzzle for so many people. Just adding 5 to 10 minutes of focused core exercises into your routine can be a complete and total game changer. So, the key takeaway from all this is simple. Stop thinking of your back as fragile. It is an absolutely incredible structure that craves movement. The path to a pain-free, powerful back isn't found in avoiding activity, but in embracing the right kind of it. It's all about strengthening, mobilizing, and supporting it with smart habits. So the final question is the one right there on your screen. Your back is built for movement. Are you giving it what it needs?